See if I can see my, there we go. There, let's see here. If you'll join me, I'll be able to see the screen from my on my phone.
Recording in progress.
Okay. All right. So, hello, everybody. We don't have that many. How many do we have online? Let's see. Where's our list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or so, something like that.
All right. Some folks will show up as we get going here. Okay. So, welcome to the, what are we, May 2026 Houston Electric Vehicle Association meeting. We've got a lot of good stuff today. We have, let's see, Tom Santilli from Legacy EV is going to talk to us. And we've also got Dave Tuttle that's going to talk to us about V2G. So, Colin, are you going to run the slides forward?
Ready?
Yeah. What do we have this going on? We've got some news on our past events. Discovery Green, Earth Day. I wasn't there, but did we have a pretty good showing? Were you there?
I was not, but we did have a good showing. I think they had
David Louie was there.
we had around close to 10 cars, or 7 to 8 cars, and lots of inquiries, lots of questions, Q&A.
Good.
Better space.
Good. All right. So
And then this is
the every month we have a joint electric vehicle. What is joint electric vehicle?
it's the
Enthusiast Club.
it's a Johnson
Electric Vehicle, Space Center Electric Vehicle Enthusiast Club. And they're nice enough. Emma puts that together, and they're nice enough to invite us out to have lunch every month, once a month. Next one's going to be May 22nd. These are usually Fridays, 11:30 to 1.
Yeah.
At the Beer House down in League City.
Oops, I think I got back.
All right. Colin's been working on this one. June.
Oh, wait a second. I'm ahead of myself.
Okay.
I'm clicking twice, I think. There we go. Then this is the next brews and batteries.
Events, batteries and brews, May 24th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Watershed off of West Belfort. That's down near me. So
yeah, you should come.
I'm going to try to. I've been gone every weekend. Go ahead. What's the next one?
This is a national EVA event that they've got coming up in Denver, and they're trying to get everybody to sign up and go to Denver, of course.
May 29th through 31st.
Yeah, and they have some very interesting topics. If you go to EVA, myeva.org, you can get all the details.
Are we going to be able to join this virtually or not?
I have not heard that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And this is the
one you've been working on.
Yeah, this is in June.
Look at that collection of cars. Houston is an interesting place. I like to say it's one of the most underestimated big cities in the U.S. because there's actually a big car culture in Houston, and but it's not a showy car culture, really. There's a lot of really impressive car collections, and this is one of them.
Yeah, this is a private garage. You can store your car there, and it's then the social aspect of it is a cigar room and restaurant and bar, and they invited us to have our batteries and brews out there.
Nice. June 28th.
Well, as you go and you manage to catch the weekend I'm in town.
Nice. We'll see you out there, Seth. Before I go to join EVA, where can folks, what's the best place that people can find our events information? Do we have a calendar somewhere?
The best place is unfortunately is Facebook.
Well, I don't know if
Yeah,
I'd say unfortunately, other than the people that don't like Facebook. But,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, I like to tell people that the most powerful button on our electronic devices is this little button on the side, which is the power off button. And you can do that within even the evil space of Facebook. You don't have to look at everything Facebook wants you to look at. You can just look at the things you want to look at. So get on Facebook and look up the Houston Electric Vehicle Association, and you can just see what we're doing. And also our email once a month that talks about this meeting also has the events listed.
Yes, and I'll have a slide at the end with more info.
Okay. And of course, join the EVA. You join the national organization, Electric Vehicle Association, and then you select the chapter of your choice. Of course, we're the Houston Electric Vehicle Association, so you'd be good to choose us because a portion of your proceeds to the Electric Vehicle Association comes to the Houston Electric Vehicle Association. We use that to buy beer. No, that's not true. We use it for printed material and help us do some of our public awareness events and
Internet expenses.
So, anyways, join us. Yeah. And this has been a nice one sheet put together by the Electric Vehicle Association. And there's actually I was seeing emails on a spreadsheet that's being updated by folks on the latest EVs and how much they cost and what features they have. And
Yeah, one of the chapters is working on that. Yeah.
so that's if anybody's interested in that, please ping us on the chat and we'll direct you there. There's always opportunities to being part of this group.
We're looking for new ideas. How do you advocate EVs?
I apologize for taking a stop there, but I had my phone vertical and I couldn't read this fine green print on top of this blue.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I can read it now. So yeah, these are the different things that we're looking for. Ideas, with a volunteer organization, we've got just a few folks that do all of the work or most of the work. Colin does a great amount. Dave Hansen does a great amount. And Robert Sanchez does, and David Lowy does. And so we're always looking for folks to get speakers. We don't just want you to, if you know somebody that's got an interesting topic, we don't just want you to email us and say, hey, I know this guy. Why don't you all get him? Why don't we'd ask that you would get them, make at least the initial contact, and then you can hook them up with Colin and Dave Hansen, who put together the meeting agenda. But we're certainly looking for different activities to do as a club. And so if you have one, and more importantly, if you want to take the lead, doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just go for it. We're the nice thing about this group is we're all interested in electric vehicles, and we come from all kinds of different spaces with that interest. All right.
So this is I'm just trying to get people to go look at the Facebook because Slate and they're still claiming they'll deliver a truck in 2026. Chinese are apparently able to project video from the headlights of an EV. And there's a solar car over there that somebody's playing with. So this is all topics that I took off of our Facebook.
Cool.
And you can see our Houston, Texas EVA group there. But yeah, a search will do it. So yeah, if you have questions about events, if you can always send us an email to info@HoustonTexasEVA.org. You can go on Facebook, YouTube. We're also on Instagram, but barely.
And most of you guys, a lot of you guys have our emails, so email us, email one of us, and we'll get it.
All right, that's it for that.
All right. So, we ready for our speaker, I guess.
Yeah.
Tom, going first?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Let's see. Tom, did you send something for me to say on this chat?
Yeah, I've got it. It should be towards the top. If not, I can send it again.
You know what? Why, instead of me jibber jabbering, I'll tell you what our experience is. We, at the Houston Electric Vehicle Association, we're really interested in educating the next generation about electric vehicles. We're really interested in educating everybody about electric vehicles, but we see a huge need for young people or others that are changing careers to get into the electric vehicle maintenance technology space. So we came across Legacy EV, and so we thought that this would be a great topic to be presented to us. So we invited Tom, and he graciously accepted to speak to us. So Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself and Legacy EV, and tell us all about your company. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Let me make sure my computer is functional here. I'll try and share something. Let me go to my window. All right. Can y'all see my screen here?
We can.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone. My name is Tom, and I am a curriculum specialist with Legacy EV. My job is to take skills and concepts related to electric vehicle technology and translate that into concrete experiences, whether it's hands-on or virtual, whether it is middle school, high school, college, or incumbent workforce. There are so many good paying jobs related to having a skill set in understanding EV technology, whether it's service and repair, whether it is drone technology, battery storage, photovoltaics. Understanding how an EV works has so much translatable skills to get people access and opportunities to these jobs that are becoming or will be much less influenced by disruptions related to artificial intelligence. People that know how to work with their hands and have the technical troubleshooting know-how, that's the type of person that we're trying to impart these skills on at a very young age, or impart these skills on so they can transition into these good paying jobs, regardless of where they're at. And part of that has to do with the realization that both nationally and internationally, EV adoption is continuing to grow. Projected by 2030, 350 million electric vehicles on the road globally. And what that means is there is a lot of need for infrastructure. And that term infrastructure extends beyond charging infrastructure. It extends to the knowledge infrastructure, the educational pipelines, starting from elementary school and beyond, that are getting people to become more aware of what opportunities are available if you have this skill set. And that's part of our focus as a company. We support individuals, schools, and businesses into the transition to electric vehicle technology. And we do that by developing electric vehicle education hardware, software, so that whether you are a technician in the workforce, an educator, inspiring youth, or a person just trying to understand how an EV ticks, we develop the both physical and digital assets necessary for people to understand how electric vehicle works. And part of our approach is we're thinking about this in kind of two core ways: preparing people that are already in the workforce to transition to also incorporate electric vehicle service, repair, understanding high voltage safety, so they can then be able to offer or apply for jobs that intersect with understanding how electric vehicles work, as well as developing turnkey curriculum, from lesson plans to student handouts to slide decks, making it as seamless as possible for an instructor that might be starting their journey in electric vehicle technology. They have everything they need in one place to facilitate instruction to their students. And it is this multi-pronged approach that is something we've noticed a need for in the schools that we talk to, is both the physical materials to teach. That includes electric vehicle technology, but also the personal protective equipment and tooling necessary to work with them. The curriculum to facilitate in-person learning, as well as the learning management system, a way to organize and house and build community with instructors that are teaching EV technology, and then also providing support to instructors, whether that is in-person training or implementation support, so that every school has a different approach to how they want to launch their electric vehicle education. Some are trying to fit it into existing automotive programs. Some are incorporating it as a more of a STEM-based, engineering-based experience. Some are looking to keep it short, sweet, align with certifications, so that people are not missing out on work. They're getting what they need to progress in their career path. A little bit more about some of our workforce development programs. There is, and I'll happily share this in the chat, there is such a need for people to have an understanding of high voltage safety. And what this reminds me of is in 2025, we worked with, it was called the Battery Workforce Challenge. This was an initiative with Argonne National Labs, Stellantis, to involve 12 universities across the US to design, engineer, and build a high voltage battery pack to put into one of their fleet vehicles. And we were approached by representatives from this organization to provide standardized certifications that were aligned with industry, to then certify these students for different levels of high voltage safety. And if you're familiar with ASE, Automotive Service Excellence, they publish standards related to high voltage safety, which they regard as XEV. The X meaning it can be any type of electric vehicle, whether it's a plug-in hybrid, fuel cell, pure lithium-ion battery electric vehicle. Because regardless of the type of X in EV, you have these fundamental components that need to work together to make an automotive work. And we focused on high voltage safety because it creates this foundational pathway no matter where you're at in your professional life. Because within the Battery Workforce Challenge, we had electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, folks that had different levels of responsibilities within their teams, but ultimately all of them needed to have certain levels of foundational safeties. Level one, high voltage awareness. An example of that is like a service representative, a vehicle porter, somebody that works in a place where electric vehicles are present, but doesn't necessarily do work on electric vehicles. They still need to know about the risks of lithium-ion batteries, what to do in the case of an emergency, handling hazardous goods that are commonly associated with XEVs, with level two being this de-energized work. A technician that is doing work on an XEV of some sort, but they have the tools, PPE, and procedural know-how to de-energize and verify that a system is safe. And it's taking a lot of elements from, for those that might be familiar with journeyman electricians, a lot of these concepts that are very commonplace in working with like AC electric, lockout, tagout, zero voltage verification, appropriate rated meter, and personal protective equipment. These are all skills that electricians use already. And so there's this need to educate the workforce that are now working with vehicles that have these same kinds of dangers that are present in some way, shape, or form in your house. And this opened up a lot of opportunities for other companies to realize that there is and thinking of some universities that are now using some of our training materials. And what you see here in this picture is our 100-volt training bench. I'll get more into that in some further slides. But they're using the curriculum and hardware as part of their shop safety compliance initiatives, where if you are in a lab working with XEV technology of some sort, you may be a lab assistant, you may be a shop safety foreman, but ultimately you still need to have an awareness of what's the risk, where's the risk, and how do you mitigate against the risks associated with XEVs. And so this has been something that we've noticed a huge demand for in the automotive industry, in engineering firms, in any firm that is working with XEVs. There's this need for industry-aligned, standardized education pathways rooted in safety, so that regardless of the type of work you might be doing, you have this foundational standards-aligned knowledge. Another realization, as we have been working with schools and shops, is this. We're often hearing from independent service and repair facilities that deal with out-of-warranty vehicles, being hesitant to do work on electric vehicles because they're not quite sure what are the risks and where are the risks. And so they're turning away revenue. And as EV adoption continues to increase, you'll also see more electric vehicles falling out of warranty. And you'll have customers that may want to go to a mom and pop shop to do their vehicle service. And those types of shops need standardized industry-aligned education, so they have an understanding of how to work with electric vehicles safely, so that they can increase their total addressable market and stay competitive and stay relevant as the type of propulsion system continues to expand into an XEV. And so this is focusing on high voltage safety and also common workflows that are associated with doing electric vehicle service and repair. Verifying isolation, recommissioning sensors, uploading firmware. There's more of this trend to, as vehicles in general are more sensor driven and computerized, there is a need for folks to, in order to do this work in service and repair, they have to understand, well, how can I How can I use Tesla Toolbox to connect to this Tesla? How can I flash firmware now that I've installed a high voltage AC compressor back into the car? How can I recommission it to make sure that that high voltage component is isolated, well bonded and connected, and also talking to the rest of the vehicle? 95% of what is in electric vehicles in a gas car. By focusing on this hazardous piece, the dangers within an electric vehicle, and understanding all of the safeties baked into electric vehicle technology, it gives shops the competence and confidence to take on more XEVs as part of their service work. At our facility, we offer 5-day in-person trainings. And what you're seeing in front of you is the 100-volt training bench. That includes everything to make the motor spin, from the lithium-ion battery pack to the monitoring system for the lithium-ion battery pack, to the different power conversions electronics that allow us to plug into the grid, convert high voltage to low voltage to still power the 12-volt, the low voltage components that are in a car, and understand in a safe manner how to diagnose, test, tune, and commission an electric vehicle system, all the while practicing these transferable skills. Because although this is a training bench, to disable a high voltage system, there is this, again, there are these common approaches that an OEM may have a specific way of doing it, but there is this fundamental overlap in these common procedures and tooling and workflows necessary to do the work. And that's what our in-person training focuses on, is making a product agnostic, skills emphasized approach, so that whether you're an instructor trying to teach using this material, this hardware, or a independent automotive shop looking to say yes to more Teslas that are out of warranty, this provides a safe learning platform for those to practice and then gain certifications to give them the confidence and then standards aligned association that they can do the work. And so that's our workforce development approach for in-person learning. We also recognize that there are many schools that are still in the process of developing their electric vehicle education program, and some have yet to start. And a lot of this has to do with just the monumental task associated with designing a curriculum that has the hardware, the software, and standards alignment that is necessary to make a sustainable electric vehicle education pathway for folks. And so when we thought about, in order for a person to be an electric vehicle technician like this, these realizations started at a much younger age. And so before we can get technicians trained, we need to get them excited about, well, what opportunities could present itself if you knew how an electric vehicle work. And so what you're looking at here is our vertical stack of different curriculum and hardware. EV Innovators Club is a middle school program where an instructor can build, drive, data log an electric go-kart with their middle school students. And we aligned it with NGSS middle school science standards, so that whether you are adopting it into, like, replacing it as a unit, making it an after-school STEM initiative, a fun, engaging way to get people that are in 5th grade, get tools in their hands, get them to connect components together that are associated with electric vehicle, understanding how a wire harness works, understanding how lithium battery technology works, and then the fun part, getting to drive it around. E-mobility, Intro to E-mobility, is a high school offering. This is a 48-volt system, and this is a type of go-kart. If you've ever been to Andretti Raceway, if you've ever been to K1, these performance racing go-karts, this is something that we see a lot of high schools and junior colleges adopt as a way to tie into physics, as a way to get engagement for people to get them to come to their school. And this is a highly programmable, very tunable, and more rigorous. And I say that in the sense that it was designed in a way to, for folks that are getting to Formula SAE at the collegiate level, where they are going to be creating a technical inspection, soup to nuts understanding of how their powertrain works. We adopted those principles and tailored them to a high school level for folks to still get that preparation for, hey, I'm building an electric vehicle. How can I understand the hardware and document it and talk about it eloquently in a very technical level? EV Tech, this is something that high school, later high school year school, later for those in junior, senior level, this is something that we see high schools adopt, like for CTE, career technical education, as well as junior colleges, universities, and even there are some organizations, businesses that do electric vehicle work that are using this training bench as a way to create hands-on in-person learning with the people that they onboard so that they can demonstrate competencies about XEV technology safely. And this is all on a 100-volt training bench, everything to make the motor spin, visually accessible, physically accessible, with documentation necessary to understand every single connection on the bench. EV Build, this is a capstone project. This is building an electric car. We provide the powertrain. So that's the battery pack, all of the accessory components, options for climate control, different levels of charging. People like there's a school that we're working with that is converting a Volkswagen thing, and they're making this interdisciplinary project with their welding department, with their media department, and they selected the car. We provided the powertrain. They gave us measurements of the different wire lengths that they wanted, and they need to simply mount that system into their car, program it, and now they have something that they're able to use as a marketing opportunity, that eye candy that gets people excited about, hey, what are the, in addition to having, to putting bread on the table by having a service and repair, by doing service and repair work, what are some other really cool things I can do in my garage? This is essentially the next another variant of an LS swap, and we're empowering schools to take that same energy of making a really cool car that just happens to be electric, and so that's our EV Build education pathway. And then EVSE, electric vehicle supply equipment or service equipment. This is in partnership with Smarter Help, where they have lab sets and curriculum to upskill and onboard folks to, whether it's instructors to teach about charging infrastructure maintenance, or for those instructors to then subsequently teach people, their students, about how to service and maintain charging equipment. And so together, this represents from as early as fourth grade all the way into the workforce. We wanted to create this pathway of a learner journey so they can get excited about electric vehicles, completing projects, and also increasing in the complexity of those projects as they continue to age, with the hope and intent that by the end of this pathway, they will not only have a robust acumen of projects that they completed related to electrification, but a clearer sense of where they sit in this new emerging late landscape of employment. A little bit more about some of our programs, then I'll have some time for questions. What you're looking at here, this little dune buggy, this is the Middle School EV Innovators Club. We worked with, we're in Arizona, Maricopa County Superintendent's Office, which oversees Maricopa County. There's about 5 million folks that live in Maricopa. And we worked with the County Superintendent's Office to launch this program back in 2024 with just the goal of, we want to have a bunch of schools build an electric car and take it into the APS Light Parade. and that's Arizona Public Service. That is our energy service provider, which we're also noticing a lot of utilities investing in grants and initiatives to get schools connected with. Money's available for curriculum adoption, hardware adoption, to develop programs at that grade level to get them excited about careers in electric vehicles. So this represents our kind of first foray into electrification. And a big part of when we designed this was thinking about a middle school instructor who may not have a background in automotive, in electrical, and so we wanted to create as turnkey as possible, whether it's documentation, build videos, really thinking about how can we make sure that any person, any adult in the room, no matter where they're at, has everything they need to guide students into constructing an electric car that they can drive. Intro to e-mobility. This is an 18-lesson course mirroring elements of Formula SAE related to the documentation and technical aspects of what goes into the vehicle that they build. This is a performance race cart where you can program it, you can derate it, you can set driver profiles, you can understand cell mapping and lithium-ion batteries, and ultimately have something really fun that, again, gets that whole put you in the back of your seat feeling when you're driving an electric vehicle, that instant torque. This is something that you can truly appreciate on a performance racing go-kart, which is kind of why we chose this as our learning platform. And we also decided to attach safety certifications with this. High school students that use this, that go through this program, ultimately get an ASE XEV voucher, as well as complete our level 1 safety certification, which was written in alignment with ASE. Because again, the whole goal is to get them to complete a full technical project while also attaching an industry recognized certification that they can continue to build on. And it's this combination of a hands-on project with a certification that is recognized nationally, globally, is the best way to give students the confidence, competence, and certifications necessary to continue their professional journeys. And that extends into our EV Tech curriculum and lab. This is our 100-volt training bench, designed to have these OEM intrinsic safeties that are present in a Tesla, in a Chevy Volt. We're talking about dual contactors, charging interlocks, high voltage interlock loops, pre-charge and discharge circuits, cell mapping, cell balancing, understanding traction control in electric vehicle and driving profiles. This has become a resource that high schools, colleges, and even businesses are using. In fact, we have a person who is using this training bench and curriculum to go to independent service and repair shops in their region, take the training directly to them, and limiting the amount of off time that they have so they can get back to work to make money for their business. But we're seeing a lot more organizations recognize the need for safe, standardized platforms for folks to practice high voltage safety and earn certifications that they can carry with them for their place of employment, but also beyond that. And we want to think about the skills and also the PPE and tooling necessary. And so a lot of this hardware also comes with, we're testing insulated gloves. We are using Cat 3 or higher multimeters. We're doing insulation tests. We're performing Hioki measurements using a milliometer. And even though this is, we wanted this to be a safe platform for teaching, by being product agnostic, we're still going to see these same components, same skills, and same tools present in service and repair documentation for a Tesla Model Y. Same thing in a Chevy Volt. And that's I think presents us this really unique opportunity for folks that are trying to get into electric vehicles. Like, this is a gateway into so many lucrative, both financially and also just personally fulfilling, professionally fulfilling, hands-on careers in electrified technology. And taking that a step further, there are some automotive shops that, um, you know, through these interdisciplinary efforts, they work with their welding department, they work with their body and paint department to make these capstone projects to retrofit or do a repower. And organizationally, that's where we kind of got started at Legacy EV, performing some really cool custom retrofits for vehicles that are this well regarded as a classic hot rod. It's got a cult following, and it creates this sense of like wonder and intrigue for folks that just love cool cars. Hey, instead of doing an LS swap, let's apply what we learned about electric vehicle technology and build a really cool car that can do some awesome burnouts. And so with this EV build lab set, they get the powertrain, they get logbooks to document their learning throughout. So they have this manual associated with the vehicle itself. And ultimately, we're seeing a lot of schools use this either as something they build and then tear down for the next year, or they take it to Barrett, they sell it, or they use it as a marketing approach and take it to other different schools to showcase, hey, if you learn with us, these are some activities and experiences you could potentially experience too. And then the huge need for charging infrastructure starts with the knowledge infrastructure, and our partnership with Smarter Help enables schools to adopt their lab sets, their curriculum, to teach folks about how to service and maintain the different types of charging equipment. And so whether that's level 2 charging, whether that's DC fast charging, targeting high schools and junior colleges, so they can incorporate this type of career technical education at an appropriate age. And what you're looking at here is a school in Northeast State Community College. Those are some of the training benches and lab sets that they are using from Legacy EV. And they're also in the process of doing a repower with something known as an atom drive system. And very excited to see them get the wheels spinning on that vehicle. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. That's all I got as far as my slides are concerned. But would love to invite any questions or wonderings you'll happen to have.
Yeah, Tom, can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, excellent presentation, excellent service. Anybody have a question for Tom? Can you pull up the chat? Anybody near? Question for Tom? Can you pull up the chat? Because I can't see it, Colin, on my phone for some reason.
Colin, you can fill up the chat.
I am.
Also, I'm gonna throw
No questions.
Okay, so I have some questions. So
I'm also gonna throw into the chat real quick. It's the EV hiring guide. It is such a awesome resource if you're looking to get people like exposed to like how to write a grant or how to see like what opportunities are present with understanding EV technology. This was published by the Department of Defense and the University of Michigan. Such a cool, it's a meaty tome. It's like 100-ish pages, but it is such a awesome resource to get people to understand like the true opportunities with understanding how EVs work. But I digress.
that's great. Hey, Colin, does the recording record the chat as well? Will it record that link?
No.
I wonder if we can copy that link and put it somewhere that we will have it so that
You mean like on a Facebook?
well, that or just so that you can, before we lose the chat, you can maybe get a hold of it. Can you copy it onto your computer maybe? And
Or I could email it to Colin. I've got a
okay, that'd be great. That would be great. That way we have a record of it. So Tom, I have several questions. One was, So here we are in EV Club. We're talking to folks, whether we're doing uh, public awareness events, or we're with our friends or people we know, and one of them has a maintenance shop. What's the best way to get them hooked up with Legacy EV? How do you guys have a some kind of a pitch that you give out for us to help you get folks?
That is a good question. What I can do, what I guess the best thing I can do is I like to write it down. I've got some folks in our marketing team that have have like some one pagers that might be useful. And that way, if you're willing to review them yourself and then like share them at your discretion, we also have on our website. It is a calculator. Give me a moment. I don't know if I can pull it up. Um, let me see. Let me get to. Thanks for your patience here.
Kevin,
Yeah.
while he's digging that up, I've just retired. I'm looking for something to do. Would this be something that I could go get certified from EV Tech and maybe open a shop?
Yeah. I'm, I was going to kind of ask Tom how they do their outreach for customers, prospective customers, what their process for doing that is. They may be looking for somebody to go work for them. And you,
And could you repeat the question? I think it was like how to get involved or.
yeah, like he was asking. Well, go ahead, Seth.
I just retired after 20 years as a safety engineer with NASA. I have a background in mechanical engineering. I've been tinkering with cars now for, the better part of the last 45 to 50 years. If I wanted to go get certified as a tech or try to and open a shop, what type of resources are out there to support that?
Man, well, first I want to write down this question because I can follow up with some like additional like links like the if if you are free, I think it's in August. It's in Denver, Colorado, State of Charge. It is a such a lively, spirited educational conference that's centered around like EV conversions, performance EV conversions, and there are it's highly educational. You get to meet so many awesome people that are really tuned into the industry that build some really awesome electric vehicles. I highly recommend checking out State of Charge. See if I can. I guess putting it in the chat might not be the most effective option. But could I send some links to Colin and perhaps get that disseminated?
I think so. And I'm kind of thinking that this may, instead of you doing a one-off presentation and then you go off your merry way and we do too, this may be the beginning of a relationship with us because Seth is interested. I'm interested. There's several of us that run across all kinds of opportunities of getting people hooked up with somebody like you guys. And I know that our chapter is not the only one. I think this is something that the entire Electric Vehicle Association chapters and others that do technology training, vocational training would be interested in. So I don't know what your marketing plan is, how you get out the word. Do you have a sales force that's reaching out to folks? But like you mentioned, you had somebody that was going out to the local shops and talking to them. I do that all the time. I say, this is a great opportunity. I know three folks that have shops here in Houston. And I say, this is a great opportunity for you to get into the market. But I really don't, I've never had the resources to back up the training that would give them certification and so forth. So I think there'd be a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, like and thank you for just yeah, wanting to continue the conversation. Like we've worked with our kind of local chapter like EV Association, and we've done some speaking events. We've done some cars and coffee, and we it's that type of like energy that is just so necessary to just continue to get people connected to these like emerging opportunities. If you know how EVs work, it is a way that you can just future proof your business and really create these economic opportunities that are going to continue to just scale as more and more electric vehicles hit the road. Um, I've got a few, yeah, I'm just making a continuous list of some different links that happy to share your way and like contextualize. I mean, one, we do, if any folks are looking to do in-person training and come to our facility in Gilbert, Arizona, we do at a clip of about once a month or once every other month in-person training. And that gets people that are like, whether it's doing a repower, whether it's you work for an independent service and repair shop, we get a high mix of folks that all still benefit from understanding how an electric vehicle works. So if I'd be happy to share like boot camp dates. I don't want to like happy to not, but that is something that if anybody's interested, we do offer training at our facility. Otherwise, we've got a YouTube channel that has featured some really cool builds that we've done. We converted a K truck into electric, and that was a really fun project. And it was in partnership with Big Time Media, familiar with like Donut. Um, and there was something that was mentioned earlier about like the service and repair. My wheels are spinning. I've got so we made a calculator. And it was based on a few different metrics. Part of it has to do with like the rate of EV adoption in your state, um, the types of different services you could potentially offer, and based on those services, like what would be like basically the new economic opportunity if you understood how EVs work. I digress. That's a link I could happily share. I gotta stop multitasking and I can find it and send it your way.
Let's just send us. I mean, we have your contact information, and send us like the information from was it DOT or Department of Energy that had
Oh yeah, the EV hiring guide. It's
that.
such a cool resource.
Yeah. So just send us that, and we'll start a conversation going with that. Colin,
Excellent.
do you have something that you want to say?
Well, we have been to HCC's automotive department a couple years ago, and we asked them about EVs, and they kind of, you know, they really had very little. They had a Prius, basically, was what their answer was. Uh, and I have been talking to Spring Branch ISD about this, and but the there are many chapters of the EVA that have gone to their community college and got them to start up something. So I think there's to me that's an area that I'm very interested in is the school level introduction of this stuff. And when we did the career day, that was the idea, was that we get people interested in electrification. And so yeah, that's and Legacy EV comes uh, shows up repeatedly among the chapter leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we had some kind of a little spiel that we could go to the Houston Community College again, or Spring Branch School District, which we do. I mean, we've been doing this for a decade at least here at the, even longer than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you go back to one of our original leaders here in Houston. He worked on that
Yep.
that was 25 years ago or 30. Yeah.
But I,
So,
I also I had the realization that uh Beaumont Independent School District actually went out and did a training with some of their instructors. If you want to see the introduction to e-mobility curriculum and like maybe if you ask nicely, they could take you on a spin on some of their racing go-karts. They're working with I think it's they got two go-karts and it's like a mix of there's like three different programs, two different schools that are working with like Legacy EV products and curriculum. So if you guys are near the Beaumont Independent School District,
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, we'll check it out. So and when they're done with the cart, they can take it apart for the next class, correct?
yep, we want it to be like the the initial purchase of like the lab set is it's like the biggest cost. Um, And so we want that cost to be, prorated over the course of time. And so a lot of schools are like our whole approach is you build it with students, take it apart, and then you can rinse repeat for as many cohorts as you'd like.
yeah, that's great. Okay. Any other questions? All right, Tom, thank you so much for presenting to us. We really appreciate it. And let's keep this conversation going. Because it's one of our passions. There's a lot of folks in the Electric Vehicle Association across the country that are very interested in this topic. So,
Yes. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you all for your time. And I'll follow up with some more information for y'all to look at, share amongst yourselves or whoever might benefit from taking a look.
all right, we have a question back from that. Hold on. You got to use that. Sorry, because you can't hear you.
Yeah, just curious. Does it just what about those small electric um drivers? I mean, like
Oh yeah,
skate, for example. Do you also deal with stuff like that?
like like micromobility, like skateboards and scooters.
Yeah, yeah, that's that you can just stand on and
You know, at
ride.
at this point, we haven't developed a platform like for that scale. However, there is, and they deal more with schools, but it's called LecTech, LECTEC, and they've got a whole curriculum for middle schoolers that is tailored for them. I think it might be like $250 for a lab set, but they get to build a skateboard and then learn about physics concepts, electrical concepts related to middle school. And that's a phenomenal platform made by LecTech.
By the way, we call those PEVs, personal electric vehicles. Yeah,
I
and
love
we
it.
had a guy come do a presentation to us of one boards and because he's with e-board rents and does bikes and scooters and all kinds of things. And yeah, let me make sure I talk to you about this guy because you may want to connect up with him. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, LEC LEC Tech. All right, Tom, thank you
Yeah,
again.
thanks, Tom.
Let's give him a
Awesome.
round of applause. All
Thank you all for your time.
right.
Well, look forward to talking to you guys again soon.
And you can stay on if you want to. We're having our next speaker, Dave Tuttle. Of Dave and my sister are neighbors, so I know Dave for a while. And he also has a magnificent solar system, and he has EVs, and he and I can spend hours solving all the problems of the world together. We've had fantastic chats, but he's also a professor at the University of Texas in electrical engineering, and he's very knowledgeable on EVs and the grid and vehicle to grid, vehicle to everything. And that's why we're very happy to have Dave speaking to us today. So Dave, you can add to that intro all you want to, and tell us all about vehicle to everything.
Sure, sure. Let me share my slides.
You may want to hit the lights again.
Okay, so what do you see on your screen?
We got it.
Okay, good. Get a laser pointer. Okay. Hey, it's good to be with you. Yeah, Kevin and I can talk for hours about airplanes and PV and electronics and all sorts of things. So I bet your group is just fantastic. He represents you well. I wish I could be there in person to meet all of you. Let's kind of get going. The reason I kind of expanded from what the original request was, just focusing on V2G, is that it really is more interesting to look at the bundle of possibilities for vehicle power export or using the vehicle and its battery as a distributed energy resource that's very synergistic to the grid or that just provides some extra value propositions. And part of that is bidirectional uh, chargers on the vehicle themselves that can enable a lot of that. So let's go through. So how could it be synergistic with the grid? Every day we have this sort of sine wave as in terms of demand on the grid. When it's night and we're in our beds and it's cooler, then obviously the grid load is lower, assuming it's in the summer here. And then as we wake up and we have human activity and the temperature gets warmer, then obviously it gets higher. So this is logical. Half our air conditioning load in the summer in ERCOT right now, before data centers really kick in, is air conditioning. So what we can do here is have the ability to have EVs be a distributed energy resource that helps shave the peak. And that peak determines the peak capital investment that the grid operators and utilities have to invest in. And then every other time besides this peak, or this one, since it's bigger, those fixed assets that will last 40, 50 years are underutilized. And that means it costs more money effectively. So the more we can get this peak shaved down, the less CapEx investment there has to be. And the more you can valley fill or coordinate with, say, with wind, you can reduce emissions and then improve the economic efficiency of the grid. So you'll hear V1G, V2G, as well as others. So years ago, I just updated this. This was a good prompt, this presentation, to update this chart. I created it originally about 10 years ago, if not more. And when we all bought our first EVs, maybe you all did earlier. I have a colleague I haven't seen in a while. He did an actual conversion with a Geo Metro probably 20 years ago. But the first EV that I bought was a Volt in 2011. Got the fourth one that came into Austin. And if you see from the left to the right, you sort of see an evolution of ever more sophisticated interactions with the grid. When 2011 happened, there weren't enough electric vehicles to matter on the grid. So we just all plugged in. Then some utilities try to say, what can we do to make it more grid friendly and not aggravate the peak? And an easy, relatively easy way to do that was with TOU, time of use plans. And they could just declare, okay, I'll give you cheaper charging, for example, a discount if you charge after 10%. And then all the vehicles that I know of, electric, plug-in hybrids, they're all programmable to where you can set certain charge windows. The Volt and the Bolt had some clever ones where you could actually set a departure time and work backwards. But anyway, but that wasn't very sophisticated, but it worked. But it was a good first step. Austin Energy had a pilot using TOU, and they didn't find it as effective. And they're actually in the second generation of DR, which is demand response. That's where you try to manipulate or change the load instead of the load being the independent variable that whatever it is you have to fulfill. If you can shape the load, you can make less grid stress. You might be able to reduce emissions. You can improve the economic efficiency of the grid. So what's most important right now, and what's fairly easy, is to have an extension of the smart thermostat program where they can shave the peaks with those and have it talk to either the vehicles, Tesla and GM are both supported through the telematics, or through OCPP level 2 chargers, EVSEs. Wallbox does it, and Charge Points Home does it. And they're connected via Wi-Fi. And so the most important thing for our utility here is shaving that peak. Then the next generation could be just getting more sophisticated in terms of aligning it. Say the wind one night is really strong in West Texas at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, the next night might be 3 o'clock in the morning. And say that was all wrapped together in the right software and data availability on what the grid mix is and the emissions level. And you don't care when your car is going to be charged. You just care that, say, it's got 80% state of charge or 100 when you wake up and you need to unplug. So there's a degree of sophistication that's to come, even with the V1G. That was a phrase acronym created, I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago by a researcher at PNNL. And just to connote that it's one-way power flow and it's meant to charge the vehicle. And then you can skip over the V2H and the grid-tied V2H for a second, and then you get to the most sophisticated vehicle-to-grid interaction, and that's vehicle-to-grid. And there's no technological breakthrough required on this. There have been many pilots. I've met the father of V2G. He's a UT graduate who's been a tenured professor at Delaware. And his first paper exploring the topic was 1997. His name is Willett Kempton, and it was a Tomac Kempton paper. So V2G, there's no technological breakthrough, but there's a whole lot of standards and coordination and software and getting the hardware down to a reasonable cost, and a number of factors there, but I think we're making real progress. Willett, Dr. Kempton at Delaware, has done many different pilots. I remember he was in Austin 10 years ago showing how he had a fleet of BMW Active E's that he had custom modified through BMW, and he had them tied to the PJM. That's another grid in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. And he had it hooked into their automatic generator control signal. So the concepts they're continuously piloted, but I think we're making good progress to get it going. V2H and grid-tied V2H, I inserted, I don't know, 8 years ago, even though I'd been working on it, because it's not really grid-tied. The V2H is a backup application in case the grid goes down. But then some people, after net metering 3.0 happened in California, and they wanted to have self-consumption to reduce their rates, they started using the term V2H for that. I didn't think it was appropriate because it was classically described as a isolated backup. And so grid tied still is tied, and I'll go over that some more. And then you have to have this distributed energy resource management system to communicate and coordinate, and you need price signals. And then with this power of export as well as import to the vehicle, you have some great capabilities that are differentiated from internal combustion engines. I mean, sure, they can export on a hybrid some power, but they don't have typically the big enough batteries to really have as meaningful of a backup duration or ability to be coordinated with the grid. So think of vehicle to load, V to L, vehicle to home, or it could be a building or premise where you have more than one vehicle and you have maybe more than one building, and this vehicle to premise, and each one of these are sort of a microgrid. The vehicle to load is maybe some of you have F-150 Lightnings that have the the Ford system in the back, and it has four NEMA 520 outlets in it and a locking 1430 240 volt. And so that's basically the same conceptually as a portable generator you'd buy at Home Depot, right in the back. Vehicle to home, again, is backup. I say that one vehicle, one home. The the one on the right, the premise, the DoD was actually doing a project called Spiders a number of years ago to investigate this. And say you had a MASH hospital, and maybe you have multiple, and obviously one vehicle wouldn't power it, but if you could have a number of Humvees or other military vehicles and they could group together in a microgrid, then that has a possibility of being an alternative power source for those facilities. So the insertion of grid tied, going down to the bottom, V2H, this is from mainly California changing from net metering 2.0 to 3.0. And they had a situation with 2.0 where the incentives were so strong that it really was making poor people pay for rich people's photovoltaic systems. And it caused some subsidizing from less wealthy to wealthy people. And so when they went to NEM 3.0, it substantially reduced the incentive to export to the grid unless it was a time of grid stress because they're having so much new photovoltaics during the day. And so they make it very unattractive. And so it also helps make uh, homeowners buy batteries as well as the photovoltaics so they can self-consume and not export unless it's a really advantageous time on the grid to export. And they have price signals for that. So again, here's just the litany of different interactions. V1G, intelligent charging, is friendly, can lower emissions or your utility bill. Vehicle to load, sort of like a manual home backup. You use extension cords, it's manual. Those of you who have your own generators that you wheel out from your garage, you'll be familiar with this. It's great for tailgating and remote power, emergency power, but it is manual and limited. V to H is more like a standby generator. It's automatic, so when the grid fails, then it clicks in. We're going to be interested to see how Colin's experience with the Cybertruck is on this too. Maybe you know some people who have an F-150 Lightning that have the intelligent backup power facility on it. Are there anybody in your group that has a Lightning with their intelligent backup?
Do we have anybody, Colin?
And not that I know of.
Yeah. Well, I'll go over the pictures.
We may have one, Dave. For some reason I can't remember who it is.
Okay. I'd love to find out what their experience has been. And then this grid tied self-consumption, won't go over that again. But V to G is where you use your vehicle and you can earn money for it, or maybe you could program it to where it might reduce emissions, help the grid reduce emissions, and again, reduce the peak demand. In Texas, the way we allocate transmission costs across the state, this is one of the reasons we can build transmission, albeit slowly, far more quickly than most any place else. It's still a slow process, but we tend to do it better than anybody else because we have a known cost allocation scheme. The 4CP is four coincident peaks, June, July, August, and September, that are measured, those peaks. We can reduce grid stress. We can hopefully try to reduce electricity prices. And you could sell into the market a couple ways, at least two that are commonly described. One is grid ancillary services. So if any of you are familiar with regulation up or down or responsive reserves, they're sometimes called in other regions spinning reserves or non-spinning reserves, then those are grid services. Energy arbitrage, and that's just where I'll show you a picture and you could understand when the price is low, you buy and charge up your battery. When the price gets higher, then it's a great time to sell and you make that spread between what you bought and what you sell. but that's highly location dependent. And the way the physics works on the grid, it's created from generally transmission bottlenecks. It can be also from large generators who can't really shut down easily. You don't shut down a coal plant or a nuke, and so they'll actually pay money to stay online sometimes. But most of the time, these bottlenecks and spreads are created from transmission bottlenecks. Are there any questions?
None here, and I don't think we have anybody online with a question. Keep going.
Okay. So it's synergistic with the grid. So the big batteries on all the vehicles that we drive are large, flexible, intelligent new loads. They're parked many times 22 hours a day. And utilities are attracted to plug-in electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids plus battery electrics from just driven by load growth. And it can be well-behaved load growth because they have to invest CapEx based upon the peak. And if they can adjust what time frame the vehicle is charged, move it off peak, then they don't have to invest more CapEx and they get more amortization of their previous CapEx investment, and that spreads that fixed cost allocation across a greater volume, and it can actually reduce electricity prices for everybody on the grid, not just EV drivers. So, has anybody ever heard of the California duck curve?
Yes.
Okay. So here's an example of this, and this is from the fact that it kind of looks like a duck, and here's the belly, here's the tail, here's the head. And over the years, they've had so much addition in utility scale and rooftop solar that the net load has continuously been driven down during the heat of the day. Okay, net load is the gross load minus the non-dispatchable renewables. Non-dispatchable renewables, since they are non-dispatchable, they're considered negative load because you can actually turn them down as far as their output, but of course you can't turn them up necessarily. You get what nature gives you. Um, Curtailing them is one way, but they're generally considered non-dispatchable. So the net load is what you have to have the gap fillers, like a natural gas plant, fill in the gaps between, you have net load, and then you have to, like the layers of a cake, have other generators. Here's an example on the right in California: natural gas, wind, hydro, this is nuclear, and then batteries. And they import a lot. We don't do that for the most part in Texas, but you have this layer cake, and you take the load minus the net load, and you have to find these alternative resources to generate the electricity to make supply equal demand every second of every day. That's one of the fundamental missions of ERCOT, as well as running the market, is to keep the lights on. And every second of every day, they have to have supply match demand nearly perfectly. Let's just call it perfectly. And they do that by mixing together all these different, this is California's CAISO, so, but it's the same type concept. The physics are you have to balance every day. And the challenge here, as this gets deeper and deeper, okay, is this ramp at the end of the day when the sun goes down, and all of a sudden you lose your solar output, and the ISO is scrambling to make sure that they can, get more of those gap fillers to fill in to make sure that they can meet the load as it's radically increasing at the end of the day. So they've got people going home from work, firing up air conditioners where they maybe were out of the house, turning on ovens, turning on TVs, whatever. So they still have the load, and it's increasing at the end of the day. At the same time, they have the sun going away. And that creates this big gap. And so batteries are getting more and more popular. If you look on your ERCOT app on your smartphone, you can see that sometimes um, a substantial amount for these small duration times, you'll have batteries uh, kicking in. They charge when there's a lot of cheap solar, and then they make money by selling it when the prices go high because there's a relative shortage, and they fill in the gaps here. And then batteries have a finite capacity, and so the ISO, independent system operator, will import more, turn up the natural gas. They'll take whatever wind they have, they'll take whatever hydro they have. Usually nuclear is run at base load constant levels. So they tend to, in California, leverage batteries, natural gas, and import from neighboring states more. Any questions on this? Okay.
No, you've done such a good job of presenting it. We don't have any questions.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
awesome.
So here's the Texas situation. This is off the ERCOT. Again, if you're into the grid, then you have to have your ERCOT app on your smartphone, okay? And it will tell you real time and it gives some great pictures. So here's our situation, and we're growing our own duck curve also. So a huge amount of solar. This was this was in February 22nd. Solar in Texas was providing 57.8% of the grid's electricity. At the same time, wind was 14%, nuclear also zero carbon and emissions, 10%. So we had 60, 70, 80, over 80% of the grid in ERCOT served by zero emissions generation. Not bad. And guess how much the market clearing price was? That's what this is. It was zero. Now that sounds great because you're buying, there's so much solar and they can offer in, it's probably, yeah, it said negative here, but the real time was, 66 cents. There was such an excess because this was a low load, a beautiful day, low load, high renewables output day, and that tends to drive the prices down. Now, for consumers, hey, I can buy electricity really cheap. But sooner or later, the generators have to make some money. Otherwise, they go broke. And that's not good. Everybody needs to make a fair profit and pay a fair share. And we have very competitive electricity rates in Texas. And these renewable generators are helping to lower our cost. Um, but so this is the positive side. Hey, cheap wholesale electricity. The negative is, well, you got to watch out about having too much of this. Otherwise, you'll have generation fleets going bankrupt and going off the grid. Any questions on this? So you see our little bubble here. Okay. Huge amount of solar. This yellow is nuclear. Down here is coal. Purple should be wind or natural gas. Actually, I think the blue is wind, and this is natural gas. That's big. We have normally half of our grid electricity being natural gas, and there's a synergy there.
We've got a question.
Sure.
Yes, sir, Mr. Tutton, thank you. I'm wondering about base load and because it generally can't throttle it down. And what if in the not too distant future, solar just grows and grows and grows as it continues to do? What do they plan to do to turn down baseload being nuclear and coal?
Well, the coal is easier to do that with than the nukes. And so given nukes they don't, when you shut down a nuke, you don't just power it up like your laptop in a few minutes. And so ERCOT knows the minimum time if you want to shut it down that it takes to come back. So they're very hesitant about doing that. I would think that if there's too much solar, they'll simply curtail the solar. And so one of the advantages of utility scale solar versus all the PV on all of our houses, I have a PV system on my house, and it sometimes puts energy and power back on the grid, but the grid operator has no control over it. But utility scale, it's typically half the cost, and it's engineered up front to be a power plant. So it's optimally arranged and engineered to yield. Typically, in our region, they're at least single axis tracking versus fixed. When you have it on your roof, it's your roof first, and it may not have the optimal azimuth or tilt, and it's usually fixed. And so a number of these factors make the utility scale cheaper if you go look at the NREL studies every year or two on solar. And the other important thing is answering your question is, well, the grid operator cannot tell nature to go create more sun. Those plants have to be curtailable as a utility scale plant, and they have to have secure, redundant communication lines, DLP, um, immune or secure against cyber attacks, et cetera. And so they can just throttle it down. They have to have the ability to keep the balance of the grid stable and have supply equal demand.
Sure. I've got a follow-on question. So when the voltage sags, the frequency gets below 60 by some value, they react. But have we ever had a situation where the voltage got more than 60 hertz and out of control, so to speak?
Okay. So there's two different things, the voltage and the frequency. And the frequency is more related to power injection and real power. Voltage control is typically more of a local phenomenon, and it's driven a lot by reactive power. Reactive power is a concept created, physical property created by the fact that there are storage elements on the grid. There's inductors and capacitors. And so you control voltage with the generator output, adjusting some less real power and more reactive, or with capacitor banks if you have an inductive load. I'm diving too much in the electrical engineering maybe on that. So if you look at a chart of the frequency, 60 hertz is the nominal, and that's the target, but very rarely is it perfectly at 60 hertz. Typically, it's just bouncing around, and the idea is to have it bobble between, say, 59.95 and 60.05. And it'll occasionally, sure, cross the 60 hertz, but it doesn't stay there. And they do that by continuously adjusting the outputs up or down of the generators to match the load. And so the system has a little bit of tolerance to this variation, and it has to have that, otherwise it would be too brittle. And so if you want to study what happened during Uri on Valentine's Day 2021, the frequency excursion below this threshold, 59.95. I don't know. I don't remember the exact number, but it's held in a certain, once it goes below a threshold, then ERCOT starts telling all the utilities to start curtailing load. And that's, when there's an emergency, because the main thing, their primary function is to keep the lights off. And when they fail to be able to keep everybody's lights on, then they know they are doing it for a good cause to save the grid and have the grid not totally fail. So yes, it had. We were 4 minutes and 20 something seconds away from a massive grid failure during Uri. And the grid operators did a fantastic job at doing what they had to do at chucking load or curtailing load to rebalance and get the frequency back up to where it had to be within the spec. And then they had to rebuild the grid and bring generators online over 2 or 3 or 4 days to then be able to enable more load to come back. And then on the voltage side, that's where you can tune you can tune it at different capacitor banks or different generators.
So is that curtailing process between ERCOT and the generators, is it as near to instantaneous as possible, milliseconds or minutes, or what might
No,
be?
it's within cycles. So the grid, our grid is at 60 hertz, 60 cycles a second. So that's 16.67 milliseconds. So I don't know the exact number, but I would assume within 10 cycles,
Wow.
160 milliseconds. It may take a little bit longer than that because you have some inertia. Say you're shutting down, you're shutting down motors in a factory. Okay. Um, it's not clear. Sometimes you don't want to have things arc, but it is not very much time. But once you send the command, so what? Here's an example. Austin Energy made $100 million during Uri because it did its job well and its gas generators stayed up. And they had, over the years, gotten redundant gas lines and they bought their gas from South Texas so it wouldn't have freeze offs. That's what happens when you have an oil and gas well produce 1 barrel of oil and 3 barrels of water. When the air temperature gets very low, very long, the well can freeze and you can't get oil and gas out of it. Well, it helps to be in South Texas versus the Panhandle in the Permian Basin on that. And there's a story about Oscar Wyatt in the 70s screwed San Antonio's utility and Austin's utility by not delivering on his contracts for gas, and that's why they drove that. So it's a very old story on that. Um, yeah, it's a last resort. You may hear the terms EE, energy emergency one, two, and three, and each one is progressively showing that things are getting worse and worse, and they take more extreme actions, and they will curtail load to save the grid. We've never had a black start, and that is something we just do not want to do because it could take weeks or months to bring back the grid.
Dave, one thing that I also think about is uh, the ERC, the PUC is also doing a tremendous amount of forecasting of what the demand will be and what the supply needs to be. And so as units age out, they get decommissioned and they don't get a renewal. I mean, we've had plants that have been decommissioned here in Texas. It's, just right next to College Station, just to the southeast, there was a plant that was decommissioned and there's nothing left there. So I think, to Bill's point, as solar, as the investment capital goes into solar and solar grows, for various reasons, you'll see some of these other assets that are older age out, and they won't participate. The investors in those older technologies will probably transition their investment to grid solar plants.
Well, yeah, some mix of the thing that's growing the fastest right now in ERCOT is solar and batteries. And then third is natural gas, and fourth is wind. Um, so actually, what happens is that we have a competitive wholesale market, and those old units, some of the gas plants, some are 40 or 50 years old. They're old steamers that aren't very efficient. And so they only want to run when they can make a profit. And if they can't make a profit, they just take themselves out of the market and they shut down. But if they're a steamer, they could be where they're waiting for the peak prices, and then they can run for a little while and make a really healthy profit. But they're running for a small number of hours at a very high price. And if eventually they don't get enough hours and a high enough price and it just doesn't cash flow, then they just eventually their owners will shut them down. And the idea with the way um, the dispatch, the security constrained economic dispatch in the wholesale market of ERCOT, the way it works, it encourages new generation, low barriers to entry to connect, to come into the market that are lower cost, and it encourages also high cost generators to exit the market.
One other question. Geothermal, I don't know what its state is in Texas now, but is that considered base load, or is it something that can be throttled reasonable? Is it like gas-fired generators, turbines?
There's a lot of activity and a lot of excitement with geothermal. I don't know what's going on in your region, but in Austin Energy, we have a pilot with that. The Fervo, um, which is one of the pioneers in the advanced geothermal, just had an IPO that was very successful. So it's got broad political support across the political spectrum in Texas. Um, because it has zero emissions. And then it also uses precision oil and gas drilling techniques. And so oil and gas companies or service companies, Halliburton, et cetera, Baker Hughes can see a way to make money off of it. And so everybody's happy. It's clean energy and it provides jobs, and we have a skill base that can leverage it. So there's a lot of support in Texas for it. Um, there's actually a Texas Geothermal Association if you want to keep plugged into that. And also, it happens that I think it has support at the federal level too. And so, what you have to really look at is everything in electricity is so regional. How much you use, when you use it. Are you a winter peaking like Minnesota at night, or are you a summer peaking like Texas? Um, and so your use profile, your demand profile is highly regionally specific. And then the resources you use to generate electricity are certainly location specific. So in the Pacific Northwest, they have a huge amount of hydro. That's a dominant source of electricity. Isn't too good for solar up there because it's always raining and cloudy, right? And so for us here, to answer your question, geothermal, um, you can find an NREL map. The It's called National Labs of the Rocky. Sort of joking about. Remember what Prince used to call him? The artist formerly called Prince. They didn't like the new administration didn't like National Renewable Energy Lab, and so they had to change their name to the National Lab of the Rockies. So the lab, formerly known as NREL, has all these maps, like wind maps where the wind is strongest, solar maps where the solar resource is strongest, and they have one with geothermal, for example. So we don't happen, you can always get heat, but it's a matter of how far down you have to go. And then the further you have to go down, the more the capex expense to drill, and then the more the operating expense to bring the medium that has the heat up so you can use it. But in Texas, there are many places, many more than classic geothermal with this advanced technology than we've had in the past. You know, Iceland has a huge amount of geothermal because it's just right there, the heat. Where we have tectonic plates in the US, that's where geothermal was very available as a resource, and it had the economics that made sense, but it was small in scale. So I'm optimistic that geothermal, and I think that once you get it going, it's it could be base load if they need it, or they could throttle it down if they want. The nuclear in the US, we tend to want to run that flat out, and that's a good thing for a number of reasons. It's less stressed on the system, so you have less chance of something breaking at the plant. It's better economically because it's a high fixed cost capital investment and a low fuel cost. When you look at the economics of that, it says run it full bore, 24/7. And there's other technical aspects where it creates a lot of inertia in the grid that keeps the grid more stable.
There was a local guy named Michael Skelly. I think he made his fortune in wind.
Mm-hmm.
And some years ago, he was pushing high voltage DC transmission lines.
Mhm.
And I understand that if you transmit power via DC, it's more efficient. I think if I recall, maybe there's, Houston buys power from a plant in Alpine, Texas, a solar plant, and seems like I looked up one point and there was maybe 7% loss, thermal losses, resistance on the lines, and I just wondered whether you have any comments about transmitting with high voltage DC.
Yeah, so Michael Skelly, he was the subject of a book a friend of mine wrote, Russell Gold, and I forgot the name of it, Power something. It was a good book about how he tried to do that high voltage DC line and all his challenges. If you look up Russell Gold, Gold, he was a former energy reporter for the Wall Street Journal for a long time, and he's in Austin. Um, it's a worthwhile read. So high voltage DC is a little bit more efficient, but it has its market niches. High voltage DC typically it pencils out in a number of different cases that are very specific. If you're have an offshore wind farm and you want to run it under the ocean, or say between England and Scotland, or between England over to France, underwater, the physical characteristics favor DC. Um, it's point to point. So between New York State and a bunch of hydropower in Canada, where it's a long run and it's point to point, way up in Canada for the hydro resource and then down to help feed New York City. The economics are such that if you have a point to point application and you have over a certain number of miles, I think it's the break even is changing, but I thought it was around 300 miles minimum. Then the extra cost that high voltage DC made sense for that application. So, and then also if you want to go between regions of the different grids, ERCOT has its own grid that's synchronous by itself. There's the Western Interconnect, Eastern Interconnect, and DC is a great way to decouple those and not create a bunch of problems with synchronizing them. So you can run a line, and it sometimes can be very short between ERCOT and the Eastern Interconnect, or we have one not only from the Eastern Interconnect between ERCOT, we have one from ERCOT to Mexico, for example. So it's a great stabilization. It's like a shock absorber that you can tune, but it's higher price and it's point to point. When you do an AC, especially with higher voltages, then you can have ribs off of it. And that's very much important. So if you look at the new 765 kV lines it's called the STEP Strategic Transmission Energy Plan. We're going to have some huge new transmission lines that are going from West Texas and the Permian in different stages through Central Texas, another one that goes up to DFW and then all the way to Houston. And every time you double the voltage, you reduce the losses by 3/4. And the 7% you mentioned, what I've been told and by ERCOT is they use as an assumption 2% losses from transmission and 5% for the distribution. High voltage transmission is really pretty efficient. And the HVDC can make it a little bit more, but typically you only want to pay for that little bit extra inefficiency when it pencils out from long distance point to point underwater or decoupling.
So what's next in your presentation?
Oh, okay, let's keep going. So vehicle load. So here's this intelligent backup power, plugs, the ultimate tailgating machine. So imagine here you have a tailgating, you have your margarita machine, you have your direct TV dish, so you can plug in there, you can back up your house, construction site, if you're on a ranch, if you need power tools, fix fence. Here's Kia's. They have a little adapter. And the reason I include this in this vehicle power export is they have it there in the vehicle, on the vehicle converter that normally converts 240 volts AC to whatever the battery voltage is. They have it bidirectional. Now, it may be small capacity. They put 120 volt extension cord in, but it's still bidirectional. Here's the Tesla one that Colin can use with his mobile cord. And it has on each side of this T head a 120 volt outlet. And only the Cybertruck and the performance model of the new Model Y have this bidirectional function. They said they're going to spread it across the product line, and we're looking forward to that. So from this, you can power stuff. So I know a guy, a researcher in Michigan, because he had natural gas heat and he had a Kia, he was able to take this that outputs up to 1.4 kilowatts. And since he had natural gas heat, all he needed was 300 watts for the blower and the electronics of his furnace. And he was able to save his house from freezing from his Kia with this very modest adapter and an extension cord. That is a value proposition. So again, this vehicle to load, it's like this is a backup generator that I have and has all the plugs in it. And you wheel it out and you plug extension cords in, same thing here. Vehicle to home, you actually have it seamless. It uses bidirectionality in the charging coupler. And it's similar to a standby generator where it's all hooked up, ready to go. It's monitoring the grid. Grid goes down, it fires up that generator, and your house is seamlessly switched over to this generator when the grid fails. This intelligent backup power does the same thing. And I think your Cybertruck, I really want to hear, it may have a pause since you don't have a power wall. With the power wall added to that system, it should be seamless where you may see a glitch, but I thought that that's what they're using to make it seamless where you wouldn't even see. Here's the challenge with bidirectionality. The first implementation on the Lightning was a clever scheme, and they had a schedule to get the vehicle out, and they wanted to save money, but they did it by charging the vehicle with the AC 1772 port and pulling the power out through the CCS1 DC pins. And that's why you had to have this special level 2 plus DC charger in your house. So it had the normal 17 to 72 round connector, charge it, and then when all this electronics sensed that the grid went down, then it would export through the power pins of the DC to your house. And then since it was DC, they had to have this inverter just like your photovoltaic panels have. And so you have a dark start battery to keep it alive when the grid goes down, a transfer switch, an old concept. Backup generators have had this for decades, and this is just the service, but some fairly complex stuff. But it's a neat solution. GM copied them and basically contracted with the same vendor to have the same electronics export DC. It really makes it lightweight. The DC interface is inherently bidirectional. AC, you have to throw some more circuits in there to make your AC charging bidirectional. But here's the thing. When you have this bundle, this is the GM solution. I think the Ford is about the same price. You have these different boxes, and the price of it is $8,100 plus installation, plus you take a lot of wall space. Now, to give this some credit, this is a hybrid inverter. So if my old string inverter that's now 14 years old went out, this has 4 MPPTs for the photovoltaics to go to, as well as the vehicle. But I don't want to have this in my garage when my PV inverter is outside. Anyway, so $8,100, it's more complex. plus install. And here's the Tesla solution. It's basically $1,300.90, the price of a high-end smartphone, and you're already going to pay for your universal wall connector. It's bidirectional capable, $600. And so between these two things, so Colin, isn't this basically all you have on your system?
That's about it. Yeah, there's a gateway is the bigger box. Yeah, and the
Gateway,
bidirectional.
yeah, Gateway 3V, and the newest level of universal wall connector that has the 1772 as well as the Tesla coupler adapter. And this is 1,900 bucks, but 600 you're already going to buy for your vehicle anyway. And so plus, I'm not trying to be a Tesla fanboy. I'm just saying they've already come up with the most elegant and lowest cost solution that I think will eventually be the de facto standard in the US. And you can add solar to it. And the paper I sent Colin and Kevin a while back, it's amazing if you have PV and a large battery in a vehicle, how long you can have the backup duration in your house. And everybody's moving to NACS. This is a few-year-old slide. So we're even seeing Toyota and Lexus newest EVs that are just coming out with the Tesla NACS, North American Charging Standard. The Cadillac Optic, the new Blazer and Bolt, I think, are both already NACS. So all these, given that they have the supercharging network that's superior, that drove it. Plus, we have one Tesla, we have one Lyric, and I can tell you it's just easier to use the Tesla. It slides into the receptacle a lot easier. So the industry is going to NACS. And remember, some of you yeah, Kevin, you had Leaf, right? Remember CHAdeMO? So you had 1772 for AC, and then you had to go find a CHAdeMO for DC. Well, they may have bridged to CCS1 on the Ariya, but they're eventually going to go to NACS. For those vehicles that were 1772 and CCS1, they're going to NACS, and Tesla always started off with that, and that's where they derive the NACS standard from. So my point is, it makes sense to have bidirectional NACS, and especially for residential. There's just fewer boxes, fewer costs, less complex installation. And perhaps you could have the bidirectional DC aspect of it used for fleets or depots. And when I talk to if you really want to get into it, there are folks that are in the VGIC, Vehicle Grid Integration Council. It's a collaborative. There's a gentleman, Steve Latente. I think he's presented to our Texas EV group, and he's deep into it. He was actually one of Willett Kempton's Ph.D. students. And so he has this newsletter called V2G News. And one of the things I'm trying to infuse in them, and I think they're very accepting, is this fundamental equation of marketing. Value equals benefits minus price. If you want rapid and large scale adoption, you have to consider this. How do you drive value up? Because no matter what good or service you buy, we intuitively shop on value. Value does not mean cheap. Value means benefits minus price. And so the way you increase benefits is making it have something more compelling. So in my book, bundling V2L, V2H, grid tied V2H, and V2G together for bidirectional capability, instead of this debate sometimes with V2H versus V2G, is like, no, stop that. You need to bundle that to make it a compelling solution. I can have my house backed up, or I can make money from the grid. And eventually, what needs to happen is, just as we have right now, all these J1772 AC EVSEs out there, it's interoperable, it's finally gotten stable. Now we're going to change it to the NACS. We need that bidirectional V2G capable equipment to be interoperable. I want to be able to take my 175 kilowatt hours in my two cars, and when I run out of juice in my Tesla, put it over in her Cadillac. Okay. I'd go 75 kilowatt hours, 100 kilowatt hours, and then I could back up my house or do whatever, or if one of us needs to go drive somewhere. So eventually the roadmap should be NACS, bidirectional NACS, interoperable. So you install it once, you're not spending money again if you go from a Tesla to a BMW or whatever your favorite car is. And then not only increasing the benefits, but decreasing the cost. And that's why I was discussing about, because a lot of people were just not really capturing the magnitude. I've actually had a bid from GM Energy to outfit my house with this DC based vehicle to home because the Lyric is capable of it, but I just think it's like it's going to be orphaned. And so, anyway, increased benefits, decreased price, eventually get to compatible hardware. And then this is where, if you really want to talk about the economics, here's why I laid it out. So, say it's 1990 plus another $2,000 install. That's still $4,000, but you have all these capabilities. Who pays for the equipment? Is it going to be the utility or is it going to be the homeowner driver, right? Or is there going to be a rebate that they give you to say, hey, if you join our V2G pilot or V2G program at our utility, and you agree to let us manipulate your battery so much, we'll help with $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever of it. Okay. But you have to really look at that. I've done consulting on this with a major global OEM, and some of the analysis just don't really account for, who's paying for it, how are they going to see a return, how long is the payback, et cetera. And then how do you split it? So typically it's easier. It's your car, your garage, your charging infrastructure. And so just make it bidirectional and capable. And then the utility has to create themselves within their organization or contract with an aggregator that a utility or ERCOT doesn't want to deal with your and my individual car. They'll get an aggregator that says gathers up thousands of cars together and then creates a virtual power plant of all these distributed energy resources that make it look like a large enough resource to bother with and have the economics be good. So they have to do that. There's a cost for that. If you really want to get into this, I would look at the roadmap for Energy Hub or Virtual Peaker. They're not only aggregators, but they're the organizations that create enterprise robust software that's essential for the utility to make these features work over time. How are the profits? So you spend the money, say $15,000 on the V2G equipment, if it's DC, and the utility can see how it can make money. How much is it going to split what it's making and share it with you? Okay, that was another thing we saw. And competitive technologies, one of the things that you have to think about is the biggest additions to the grid are solar batteries in Texas, some more natural gas. And as these batteries come online, they do a number of things. They're great assets to help replace, say, gas peakers in certain cases, but they have a finite duration. The most popular are 2 to 4 hour duration. That isn't enough to power us overnight. No matter how much solar during the day, you have to have enough storage to store it. I tell students that one of the most profound changes over their lifetimes will be the development of massively scaled economic grid storage. It's just going to keep getting better and better. It's like Moore's. I grew up in the computer industry, and we always thought maybe we're going to run out of gas in terms of being able to continuously push the envelope forward. I think batteries will be the same thing. you'll hear some people say, I don't know what we do next. Well, the whole world knows that this is valuable. And so the more batteries grow, the more they can take 5% of their revenues and apply it to R&D. And as the battery growth revenues go up 40%, that means their R&D budget can go up 40%. So utility scale batteries. So, but people have to realize that this is a finite demand on the grid. So ancillary services are these tuning levers, services that the grid operators use to make sure the grid stays balanced and stays stable. Because you can forecast, but if you get better than say 4 or 5% forecasting error from the previous day to now, you're doing great because things change. A couple degrees weather, a temperature difference could make your forecast different. And how good can you really forecast all these things? Demands cloud cover, which reduces heat load, etc. So the grid ancillary services market is a finite, it's say 5% of the grid demand. It's finite. So when you have something that has finite demand and then you have more and more supply come online, what does that do to the price?
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
So our meeting goes till 8:30, and we're all enjoying this very much. But
This is the last slide.
okay, very good. That's what I was going to ask is how much you had.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to kind of wrap up a main thought on your presentation.
Yeah. So it's a valuable thing. But the economics matter and there's competitive technologies. And the way to make this get abundant or get really popular is get it standardized on NACS, reduce the hardware cost, increase the value proposition by bundling all these bidirectional capabilities.
Very good. Do we want to do some questions? Colin, you're kind of you're the one that's got all this stuff that you need to pack up. Do you want to do a little bit of questions with Dave?
Do I have a question? Yeah, my question is, when will I start making money off of my battery in my truck? That's my question. But only Tesla knows the answer to that.
Yep. And ask Kevin how he's satisfied with his Tesla VPP.
Yeah, I'm not that happy with my Tesla VPP because they pay me a penny a kilowatt hour at the time that they're using my sucking my solar that they can sell for 30 or 40 cents a kilowatt hour.
Oh yeah, so the probably not a good. Don't expect too much is what I hear you saying.
Well, this is where it would be great to have a checkpoint a year from now and find out what they've really done. And that's why I put number 2 in here. How are the profits split? My perception is Kevin's not got a fair profit split for the Tesla VPP.
Yeah, and part of that is that they really haven't figured it out. It's really interesting. They're coming out to service the equipment because it's not giving them good data. My solar system seems to be producing these spikes of energy in the middle of the night, and it's messing their algorithm up. It's not messing me up at all, but it's messing them.
Okay, well, another software problem. My Cybertruck sees a person in front of at a certain place on my street. It's a ghost. There is no person. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some sophisticated software at multiple levels. I mean, there's the energy management aspect within your own sort of microgrid or your own system, and then they've got this auto bidder. And then Tesla in your area, since it's competitive retail, they became a Repco and they also have a Genco. So they've dealt with cleverly the ERCOT market structure to try to go pilot this. And if they have people like Kevin dropping out, then they will realize that it's not that attractive for participants. So this is why, I was really excited when I asked Kevin if he knew of anybody, and I'm so glad that he connected us. Um, I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic if it's bundled and it's low cost because 1390 is cheap enough where it's basically almost the same price as one of those backup generators at Home Depot.
You guys have any questions? Anybody? Any questions? Do we have any questions in the chat?
Seeing any progress in that whole regulator, manufacturer, or car company?
Vehicle to grid, you mean? A bidirectionality of the cars?
Because it takes all of them.
The question is, are we seeing progress on the bidirectionality of the cars?
Yes. I mean, as soon as Tesla does it, I've heard from an informed source on the SAE J3400 committee that all the OEMs are working on AC bidirectionality, but it's a matter of are electric vehicles a priority for them anymore? Some of them, like Stellantis, I don't think they are. Um, but I think obviously Tesla, I think BMW is still, doing it in a balanced way. Cadillac is a third of the Cadillacs sold are EVs now. So I think don't walk away. Um, and I just think that with the federal policy changes, it's going to be, they're trying to reassess what the right balance is. Um, but as they go to NACS, I hope they do it. I thought I read that some of the new Toyotas that have NACS have some kind of bidirectionality. It may only be lightweight V to L, but they didn't specify.
I personally think that the biggest driver of vehicle to everything is the value proposition of grid stabilization and this big black cloud we have on the horizon of forecasted energy demand growth through the data centers and AI. That is driving the regulators to look for every opportunity to. What do you think, Dave? Is that
Well, I think it could help. Absolutely. I mean, this is storage. This is just distributed storage, but it doesn't generate power. You still have to have either wind, solar, nuclear, coal, gas, geothermal, hydro, to fundamentally convert something into electrons. And then you could store them for later use. And that's what this helps with. And the vision is you already have paid for the batteries, so the batteries are free. So let's use these as a grid resource. But what gets lost sometimes in the discussion is, well, the infrastructure to make it bidirectional, you can't, it's not too smart to have that cost $15,000. Tesla did it smarter, costing $1,300.
So I just Googled Toyota's got a pilot program on Japanese spec models.
Yeah. And you know why that is? It's because after Fukushima in 2011, they dictated that their EVs in their market had to be bidirectional. There used to be this solution called Leaf to Home, where you had this little Chatamo box and you could take a Leaf Japanese market and power your house with it. I think it was Leaf to Home. If you Google that, you may find that, but they never would bring it to this market.
They also had bidirectional leafs in one of the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, well, they were very cooperative. Pecan Street here in Austin had a leaf, and it had a bidirectional capability. It was used for a research project. They regularly had a program where if people wanted to experiment, they would be goodwill and help sell more leaves. But it was Chatamo, and Chatamo's dying, and things like that.
all right? Anything else for we've let's see, the Tick and Tat. No, what was the Tappet brothers? Click and Clack. To tell you you've wasted another hour of your precious life. But what I was thinking is the Dave Tuttle show. You've only seen. It's kind of like an iceberg. You've only seen the very small percent of the total iceberg. Most of it is under the water.
Oh, appreciate that.
And
Yeah.
we could we could have many. I'm positive about the future though.
All night, but they'll kick us out.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're going to kick us out of the lab. So
Okay. Well, it's good to see y'all. I hope to meet you in person someday.
yeah,
And
come on down to Houston. We'll entertain you with the most
okay. All right. Y'all take care. Thanks
Have a
again
good
for your
night.
time. Okay.
Thanks for everybody joining online. Did you want to do a quick announcement, Bill, before we shut off? You want to share your computer?
You got to share it.
Well, okay, so how to do that?
You just
You can do that from anywhere.
right here, the share button.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just move down. Okay, and share. There you go.
Yeah, I'm organizing a solar wind battery farm tour.
Hold on, Bill. You got to talk into the mic.
Yeah, let me get my mouse. Yeah, am I on there yet?
Yeah, you're on there.
Okay. Yes, I'm organizing a solar battery wind farm tour. I'm not seeing the thing up there, did I? Not share?
Did you share it?
I think I did. You know, here.
Oh, you're not sharing.
Let me do it again. Was it canceled?
Yeah. Actually, you're not sharing.
Come on, baby. Okay, I think it's
Hit our screen movements. Will show your system.
oh, maybe that's it. Well,
Hit on that.
you mean,
Yep. Click, double click it. Oh, here you go. No, hit on that and hit share.
okay,
There we go.
yeah. So,
Okay, now we got it.
yeah, I'm organizing a solar tour. So far, 2 carloads are gonna go. I'm showing you this farm, you guys, this farm, solar farm right here, west of Rosenberg, they had a fire and it's shut down, and next time I'm out there, I'll ask whether panels are available, right? But basically, the solar farm tour leaves Houston, goes to El Campo, and I know where there are 150 GE wind turbines in the El Campo area. And I know where the office is, and that will be our first stop. The tour should be during the week because more likely there are people there that we can talk to. And then from El Campo, go south to Danish Fields. This is of course, Google Maps is not up to date, but this is a 2 square mile solar farm with a battery farm, which is wonderful. And again, I don't know whether they'll allow us to tour, or whether they have a guide that'll explain what's going on. I would tell you, solar farm tours are pretty boring.
Talking to the mic there.
Solar farm tours are kind of boring because there's a lot and lots of. Well, yeah, they're all single axis trackers. So they are moving, but it's the solar farm and the inverters and the transfer station. And then so we'll go to Danish Fields, and there's a restaurant, a nice Danish restaurant called Dane Vang in Dane Vang. And then if anybody wants to, we can go to this solar farm, and I'm going to pull the thing up here. This is last time I was out there, which was a couple of years ago. They had 51 3 megawatt wind turbines, and I'm sure there's more now. I don't know why it's not coming up. But anyway, that's something, and I suppose if you want to go, we can make a blast to indicate when and where. And I think what I'll do is we'll meet at a particular place because people will be coming from different locations, meet at a particular place at a particular time. And I'll provide the coordinates of the location. That's it.
And how do they get in touch with you?
Well, that's, I don't know how to do that. Can I?
What are you willing? Are you give them your email? Give them
Yeah, I can give
your
you
phone number.
Yeah, I'll give you my email.
When are you thinking about doing this?
I think in the next couple of weeks.
It would have been good to give us that information so we could have posted it on our.
Well, I can, Colin
We
did
can still do that.
still do that.
Yeah.
We can
But,
put it on Facebook.
but for right now, why don't you give them a phone number or an email, one of the two.
Well, most of you have my phone number.
We're talking about maybe somebody who's online who may.
Oh, okay. Well, my cell is, let me do my email. It's william.swan with a number 2 @gmail.com. Or my phone is 832-338-3080. And anyway, it'll be a nice tour during the week. We'll probably leave at 11 or something to avoid traffic going and coming, and there you have it.
Yeah, so more to come, and if you have more questions, you can always contact Houston EVA. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Also, I'd like to point out on the desk over there, Roland bought that piece of silicon that's standing up. It's
Can you move?
it's the source for making
You guys are killing it.
solar panel wafers of.
Just stop on sharing, Bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
stop sharing. So make an announcement again?
No. He's just gonna pull up the camera.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to. And,
Bring it to the camera.
how
Hold
about
on,
that?
there he's got it. He's got it. So go up there, Bill, and just point to the thing so that they know it's the big cylinder there on the table.
There it is. It's rather heavy, I have to tell you.
Yeah. Block it.
It's following, the camera's following you. Go around to the other side.
Is a silica, how does that get processed into panels?
I have not-
They cut it.
I have not looked that up. Maybe Don, or
I think they cut the. It's sliced into wafers? Into wafers. And then layer it.
yeah, I gotta believe the cut, depending on what they cut it with, is probably thicker than the piece you're cutting off. I don't know whether they cut via laser. Laser or-
We could,
We can Google
it on
that.
AI. We
Yeah.
could get an AI demonstration on how they make solar cells. All right,
All
well,
right, there you go.
I think this is good. Everybody, thanks for joining us and have a good night. That's what I want.